Welcome back to Top Shelf EDU. Today, I'm joined by Tiger Zhang, who just completed his sophomore year at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Welcome, Tiger.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So, we're going to start with your program at the University of Michigan. What are you studying, and why did you choose Michigan for your field specifically?
I'm studying for a bachelor's in computer engineering, and I guess I chose this field because I've always wanted something related to computer science. There's actually a computer science program here at Michigan, but you actually have to be admitted into the program, which I wasn't, which is fine. Although I think they actually got rid of this requirement for the next semester. But I did get into the School of Engineering, and you can choose any engineering major you want from there. And looking back, I do think computer engineering was a better fit for me than computer science. Computer science is much more math heavy and theoretical, and I really enjoy the more like hands-on and problem-solving nature of engineering.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, how does it work at the University of Michigan? With your first year or even your first 2 years, are you starting right into those computer engineering courses, or is it more general for the first little bit?
So there's I guess there's like core engineering requirements that you take, which are more general, like physics and math and things like that. And then after that, you can sort of just start choosing whichever courses you want, and then you can declare a major afterwards. And you can still change your major like at any time. So it's just as long as you fulfill the core requirements and the requirements needed for that major, you can just apply for it.
Okay, so even after your first or second year, if you wanted to change majors, you could actually change majors, and it's pretty simple as long as you had the prerequisite courses.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know for anybody that's wanting to go in, but understanding that things may change and your interests may change. It's not too hard to switch as long as you have those prerequisite courses. Now, in terms of your academic experience at Michigan, compared to what you expected, what's it been like?
It's honestly been a lot smoother than I had anticipated. I remember before I started college, I was like really intimidated. I was just like sitting in class, and sometimes we'd have like alumni come in and talk to us and give advice about university. And everyone's like, it's really important you stay on top of things and you have to keep your grade up, which is like true. But for me, I felt it wasn't like too different from high school, especially some of the more advanced like AP classes you would take, except for the fact that you just have to be a lot more independent. And I guess the biggest difference is instead of being in a classroom, we were attending lectures, but it wasn't like too new to me, so it wasn't too bad.
Okay, that's a great transition
Yeah.
because that's what I was going to ask next. Yeah, and I know you took several AP classes, and do you find that those help prepare you for university? And what would your advice to be to somebody in high school who has the opportunity to take them, but maybe thinking whether they should or not? What's your advice to those students?
I'd say they're definitely a really good choice to do. And it did prepare me pretty well for college. I'd say the workload is maybe a little bit less from some of the harder classes you would take, but the stuff you would be learning is pretty similar. And the biggest thing is some of them can, count as prerequisites or just like requirements you have to do. And so if there's some classes that like you really don't want to take in university, I'd say it's a good idea to get them out of the way first.
Yeah, that is a good point. If you do take an AP class or if you're in the IB and you're in a higher level, those can count for first year university credits. And often students will use that as an advantage to lighten their load a little bit their first year and kind of help them transition into it. So that's great advice right there. Now, can you walk me through a typical week as a Michigan student? What does your school schedule usually look like?
Yeah, I'd say typically it mostly involves just sitting in lectures. You'd have like two or three a day, and then you'd have discussion and lab sections for all sorts of classes, actually. The labs are more like small group sections instead of like a big lecture you attend. And we actually have two campuses here. There's like North and Central campus. So you also spend a lot of time traveling between the two on the bus.
Okay, that's great. Now, you've talked a lot about like the lecture. There's lots of lectures. There are discussion based. Is there opportunities for hands on, like internships or research opportunities? And if so, which year does that typically open up to students?
I'd say internships, it's mostly you just have to go out and look for them, but there are resources on campus you can go to, like there's a career center. In terms of research, though, I'd say Michigan actually puts a really big emphasis on research. And so you can just start applying anytime. I have some friends who were doing research just this last year. There's also a summer research program. There's like steps you can take, either just reaching out to professors or there's like actual like research programs that you can apply for.
Okay, that's good to know for any student that wants to get into research, especially if you're going to be applying for grad school or even when you start applying for jobs afterwards. That hands-on learning and that experience is going to be really important. Now, you said that you could reach out and talk to professors. Are your professors and TAs, are they accessible or is it sometimes tough for them to get a hold of them and get extra support?
I'd say they're actually like super approachable. They're available every week for office hours. You can just sign up or like wait in the queue to talk to them. And I've always felt comfortable just going up after lecture to ask a couple questions. And TAs are also generally really great.
Okay. No, that's really good to know. So anybody that's kind of looking for that extra support, high school students, that University of Michigan, they are easy to speak with. They're approachable and they're there to help you. That's really good to know. Now, is there something that surprised you once you got on campus at the University of Michigan? You have this idea of kind of what's going to happen when you show up, but can you walk me through the first few weeks or even the first month and something that may have surprised you when you got on campus?
I'd say for me, the biggest surprise was actually that divide between the North and Central campuses I talked about earlier. If you're in engineering, you're mostly on North Campus. That's where all the engineering and arts classes are. And then humanities and math and everything else is in Central. And the biggest thing for me was I was a little scared of taking the bus around. There's a there's a free bus system called the M bus, and I was always worried I'd like get lost or go on the wrong route. But they have a good app for like tracking them and seeing all the routes. And now that I'm used to them, it's really convenient.
Okay, that's good to know. Are there any traditions? Like I know that in terms of the student life, it's a big sports school and there's lots of opportunities, but are there any traditions at Michigan, whether it's game days or campus events that really are unique or memorable for students?
I think the biggest one is probably every Saturday, or is it Sunday? I've never actually been, but they have like huge football games. I think football is a really big thing, American football, at Michigan. So I definitely recommend going.
Okay.
Yeah,
And in terms of the social scene, is it more laid back? Is it high energy or is it somewhere in between?
I think if you're on North Campus, it's a lot more chill. But like the traditional, I guess, like college town feel and parties and stuff that happens on Central Campus. So you can choose what you want.
Okay, that's good. What's it like living in Ann Arbor? Can you describe the town it is and kind of whether it was, what people do on weekends for fun or kind of just throughout the week if they want to get off campus?
Yeah, Ann Arbor is generally pretty quiet town. It's a college town, so the entire thing is generally part of the University of Michigan, and I guess it's nice if you wanted to on the weekends. There's a lot of fun places to go. I've been to the arcade with some of my friends, and there's nice restaurants in Central.
Okay, great. Yeah. What type of students do you think would thrive at Michigan? So if a student is thinking about attending, what students would thrive? And on the other hand, who might struggle in the environment or the culture at the school?
That's a good question. I think if you're really independent and you can ask for help if you hit a wall and advocate for yourself, I'd say you'd really thrive here. But if you'd prefer like a little more hand holding or smaller class sizes, this is a pretty large school. Or honestly, if you just don't like cold weather, especially during the winters, then it might not be a great fit.
Okay. How cold does it really get there in the winter?
I've had like the day of my finals, it was like minus 20 Celsius. So yeah, a little cold.
Yeah, it's something that you have to kind of know ahead before you get in there so you can be ready for it, for sure. How would you describe the atmosphere at Michigan? Is it more collaborative? Is it competitive? A little bit of balance of both?
I'd say it's super collaborative. Everyone that I've talked to here pretty much has always been really friendly and they want to try their best. And they're generally just really approachable and collaborative. So I haven't seen too much of like competition. It's mostly just like friendly, I guess, if anything.
Okay, that's really good to know. Is there, so we're going to move into like a rapid fire now. There's only 3 questions I have left for you, but what's the best spot to study on campus?
For me, probably the Dude. It's on North Campus. It's the library. It's called the Duderstadt Center. And it's just a lot of really great study spots, and they have computers set up that you can access all sorts of programs.
Okay. Is it if you want to go study with others? Is it one where you want to study on your own, or does it have like a little bit of each?
It's a bit of both. There's like one floor where it's more open and there's tables you can gather around, or if you want, you can go into like the more quieter sections in the back.
Okay. And where's the best place to grab some food, whether it's on campus or just off campus in Ann Arbor?
Ooh. I'd say if you're on North Campus, there's a really convenient Panda Express near the Duderstadt. And if you're on Central, the Zingerman's Deli is actually really great. They have good sandwiches there.
Okay, great. And then finally, what's either one survival tip or one piece of advice that you would give somebody starting their first year at Michigan?
Starting their first year. Um, I guess this is a little more general to anyone at any university, but when you're picking out your classes, make sure you leave a spot for lunch. That's really important. I made that mistake my first semester, and it was like every Friday I'd just have to grab a snack bar from my fridge, and it was kind of miserable. So yeah.
Okay, no, that's really good advice. Everybody needs to eat for sure. On campus, is there like an academic advisor or coordinator that helps students with choosing classes, making sure that you have what you need, or are you kind of on your own for that stuff?
Every degree program has an advisor, and before you declare your major, there's like general advisors you can talk to. You can just book an appointment on the website.
Okay. All right. And I know that we said we were done, but I do have one last question about residence. Are do most people live on residence? And if so, when do they generally move off of? And how does the residence kind of work and look there at Michigan?
I'd say like everyone in first year pretty much lives on campus. And afterwards, there's always like spots like basically on campus, but they aren't like part of the university. So I have a ton of friends who live in just like apartments around the town. And you can move out, I think, anytime you want, honestly. But I think most of my friends in second year have moved out.
Okay. Was it tough to find a spot?
Not too bad. Rent might be a little expensive, but still cheaper than other places, I think.
Okay, that's great. Tiger, thank you so much for joining me. This information will be really helpful for all those students and families that are considering the University of Michigan. And hopefully, this stuff will help them make more informed decisions on if this is the right school for them. So, thank you for your time and have a great rest of the day.
Of course.
Thanks for tuning in to Top Shelf EDU, your inside look at the university experience. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and share it with someone exploring their path to higher education. We'll be back with more insights, stories, and advice to help you navigate your journey. See you next time.